I'm going to go over the main features and how to use the Cell Map Toolkit from the Indie Asset Store, as well as some troubleshooting problems that you may have. So first, let's start. You can go into, after you have a downloaded package manager, if you want to, you go to Cell Map Tools, Cell Map Toolkit, and Quick Start. This is going to build your demo scene, and it's going to generate starter assets for use in the demo scene, as well as get the shaders to match to the current render pipeline that is in use, which would be either built-in URP or HDRP. And so when you have that, you can go and click play, and you can play around with things. But one thing to note that you can have, when you, so here, if you look here, this is throwing an error here with the input system, because the input system that I have, if I go to edit, project settings, and here in player, active input handling, it is using the new input system. The demo scene comes built with an old input system, so if you're using the old one, you won't have this issue, or if you're using both, you also won't have this issue. But if you're just using new, you'll have the issue, and you just go here, you click this button, and then those errors will not appear anymore. So that's really going to be the most common issue that you have. So let's look into the cell generation, into the demo scene, and look at the cell generation. So here, if you want to, right now it just defaults to hexagonal, but you can do square. So here we'll do square, generates a new map. You can change the noise. Currently is the set default generation style. So we'll see this kind of makes nice continent shapes usually. So I think this is the best of the three, but the other ones have use cases as well. So this one is for Hanoi. So this can lead to some interesting shapes. And then this one is going to be cellular automata. So this one also can be interesting, but I personally prefer noise, but that's really up to you. So also here, mesh is going to be faster, have better performance. So if you're having really large maps, I'd recommend mesh. But if you want, you can also have it render with game objects. These are individual game objects, so they they have physics capabilities and things like that, but they're not going to be as performant. You also can change the size of the map that you want to render. So you have this, really big map, or maybe a really small map. And you can just get this to be whatever size you want. So there we go. And if you want to, you can set the seed of what you have. So if you want, this is what 50 seed 500,000 looks like. We'll hit generate. This is what it looks like. So no matter how you generate, it's still going to bring in the same terrain every time, because that's what the seed is. And if you want to do random seed, you just set this back to 0, and it'll just do a random seed every time. Next, we'll move on to what the display modes are. So here, this is composite, so this is going to show everything. And this is going to show your rivers. This is going to show your terrain types. This is going to show resources and vegetation and structures, all on one map mode. Which this one is just terrain. So here it looks pretty much the same, but you just can't see the resources and things like that. You can also have an elevation map mode. Resources, here we show the resources, and wondering why there are resources in all of these tiles. That would be because I have map generation settings. Resource chance is 1. I think they default to about 0.2 or so. So this is going to be a more standard range here, and we can see this generates a more normal distribution of resources, a little bit more toned down. And then same with vegetation, structures. There are no structures in generation. You can just add them to the map. Those capabilities are there, so just via any gameplay, the player can add structures, like they could add a bridge or cities or things like that, whatever structure you want. You can have here, because if you go to here, this would be structures. So we have cities, fortress, ruins, and village. These are all the structure options that come pre-built. And if you want to create another one, you could just go right-click in your project, create, sum up toolkit, and definitions. And you can do this for any of them. Vegetation, terrain, structure, or resource. And so I made one, I set one up here. I will have in resources, see we have silver here. And so let's take a look at what we have. This one I set up, I renamed it silver. You can assign an icon. I don't have an icon for this one. You pick the color that you want to show up on the map, and if you have like prefabs or anything like that, then you'll just want to pick, you can probably just pick white, because that'll show the prefabs in their standard color. If you have it assigned as red here, it's obviously going to tint your prefab red, and so you can just add the prefab. So if you want to have a 3D silver mine here, right, you just put your prefab here and it will overlay on top, similar to this, but this is just a little cube that comes in default. And then here you have your yields, and you can adjust your yields and the yield types as well. So here we just have food, production, gold, science, culture, but you can change them however you want. Your spawn weight, if you change this changes how likely something is to spawn. So increase, it's more likely to spawn, decrease, it's less likely to spawn. And so here we can go to this resource. You see no silver is here. Well, I've created it. We can go to add resource slot right here in our map registry, and let's add silver and see what happens. As you can see, now there's silver here spawning in on the maps. And you can do the same with any of these, or you can remove them if you want. You can also change the river prefabs. Again, these are kind of just standard rectangles here in the mesh, but you can bring in your own custom river prefabs or road prefabs as well. And prefabs are any overlays or structures that you have. So here you want to see the materials that you want. If you want to have custom materials for this, like here these are just standard shader materials here. If you wanted to, you could change the material of what is shown here, and it'll change it to whatever you want. So if you want a really detailed desert, you can just you could go into your desert terrain definition and update the visual material, and that'll update there. One thing to note is that the terrain is based on elevation. So here, desert only spawn in this elevation range. So if you want deserts to be more prevalent, you can either make this elevation range more common or expand the elevation range, and then also you can increase the spawn weight as well. So that pretty much covers everything with the terrain definitions and map generation settings. So here we'll just go and look at a few more of the visualization options that we have. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just adjust the camera angle here. So we'll do this. It's a nice 45-degree angle. It's a little bit you can see the height on the stepped map a little bit better. So here we have the stepped map, which just kind of shows these little pillars coming up. But you can also do smooth. So this is going to look a little bit more like a little bit more realistic. Or if you want, you can just go flat, which this is kind of a classic board game style. I really like stepped. I think this one looks the best, and I think it's a nice kind of a best of both worlds thing. Here we go. So you can also adjust the elevation. 0 makes it flat, and then obviously 10 here. You can increase it further if you would like. Anything on this side here in the demo scene, you can actually just edit directly from this editor in Map Manager here. So in your own project, you can edit these directly, very easily, very simply with this if you want, or you could just call methods. We have a lot of methods set up and commented in the code for you just can call, so they're quite easy. And then here, currently, you have the option to show the water as flat, which would be looking at the surface of the water, or if you want to see the sea floor, you can also turn that map view on, and you can see the variety at the sea floor here. Another capability that we have is we have this fog of war system. So you just go here, and that sets up the fog of war, and you can reveal tiles, and all of that is already set up. So we have a fog of war manager, and you can just bring that into your project if you wanted to use it. Another option that you have is if you click here, you can see what each thing is. And let me just bring this down so you have a little bit better view of things. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can go to paint these things here. So here, let's say you generate a world, and I really like how this looks, but I don't like this up here. I think this should just be ocean. So I go here, paint mode, and I just change these to be ocean tiles, and then I can save it. I'll just save it to this as this file here. We'll save, replace, and then I'll just generate you a new map here that we can look at. See, obviously very different. We'll load this map, and there's that saved map right there. So you can edit things directly in runtime, and then also save them during runtime. I think that just about covers everything. That all of the systems, and that was the main issue that we had with the input system issue. You just have to, if you have that issue, you just go in and hit this button. This again is just in the demo scene as well. So obviously when you're using the map generator and other things like that in the actual, like in your actual game, that's not going to come up, because this is just unique to the event system game object that is spawned in the demo controller. So it's not really something you don't have to worry about. So if you have any other questions, anything you want me to make a video about, something like that, my contact information is in the asset information, so you can contact me and let me know, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But hopefully that you like the asset and it's helpful in your projects.